Los Angeles, July 14th, 1988. The summer air hung heavy with anticipation as 40,000 souls pressed against each other in the cavernous expanse of the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena. The darkness was absolute, pierced only by the occasional blue flash of a camera or the yellow glow of a lighter held aloft in reverent expectation. Minutes stretched into eternities as the crowd's collective breath seemed to hold, suspended in the magical space between reality and dream that only existed in these precious moments before he would appear. Children sat wide-eyed on their parents' shoulders, their small hands clutching homemade signs with trembling excitement. Couples leaned into each other, fingers intertwined, whispering predictions about which song would open the night. Seasoned fans who had followed him since the Jackson 5 days stood with arms crossed, nodding knowingly at first-timers, silently promising them that whatever they were expecting, the reality would exceed it tenfold. The Bad World Tour had already become legendary, with stories of fans fainting, crying, and experiencing moments of pure transcendence filtering back from Tokyo, London, and Sydney. Now Los Angeles, his home, waited to receive its native son, the king of pop returning to claim his throne. The air conditioning hummed ineffectually against the heat of 40,000 bodies, each one radiating anticipation like a living ember. Then, without warning, even that ambient sound cut out. The silence that followed was so complete, so consuming, that many would later swear they could hear their own heartbeats, thundering in time with the collective pulse of the arena. A single spotlight cut through the darkness, illuminating an empty space center stage. The crowd inhaled as one. The opening notes of "Wanna Be Startin' Something" exploded from the sound system with such force that the floor itself seemed to vibrate. The band had materialized as if from nowhere, bathed in blues and purples, their instruments gleaming under the lights. But still, he wasn't there. The introduction continued, the tension building to almost unbearable heights as 40,000 pairs of eyes searched desperately for him. Then, a silhouette appeared behind a thin screen at the back of the stage, arms outstretched in that iconic pose that needed no introduction. The screen dropped, and there he stood, Michael Jackson, adorned in a gleaming gold and black military-style jacket embellished with chains and medallions that caught and scattered light like fallen stars. His hair was perfect, his stance powerful, his presence immediately filling every cubic inch of the massive arena. A single crystal-encrusted glove covered his right hand, reflecting prismatic patterns across his face as he slowly raised it to the sky. The crowd erupted with a roar so deafening it seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. Women screamed his name. Men shouted in appreciation. Children jumped up and down, their small faces transformed by wonder. Michael stood motionless for 3 full seconds, allowing the moment to build, to crest, before launching in a movement so precise and powerful that it seemed superhuman. From the first step, the first turn, the first impossibly smooth slide across the stage, he demonstrated why he had transcended the simple label of entertainer to become something approaching mythological. His dancers flanked him, each one a master in their own right. But all eyes remained fixed on the slight figure at center stage who moved as if gravity was merely a suggestion rather than a law. The concert progressed like a perfectly orchestrated dream. Beat It, Billie Jean, The Way You Make Me Feel, each song flowing into the next, each dance moved more impossible than the last. Michael barely spoke between songs, letting the music, the choreography, the sheer spectacle speak for him. 2 hours in, not a single person had left their seat, not a single moment of energy had flagged. He had them completely, utterly in his thrall. It was during Billie Jean, perhaps his most iconic song, that the moment came. The moment that would be recounted in newspapers, on television, and eventually in the digital folklore of the internet for decades to come. The distinctive bass line pulsed through the arena. The hat came down low over his eyes, and Michael began to move with that otherworldly grace that had redefined what the human body was capable of expressing. The crowd knew what was coming. The moonwalk. The move that had shocked the world when he first unveiled it 5 years earlier at the Motown 25 celebration. Now it was anticipated with the kind of reverence usually reserved for religious experiences. As the moment approached, 40,000 people leaned forward in their seats, many raising cameras to capture what they knew would be magic. Michael slid backward, smooth as silk, seemingly defying all laws of physics. One step, two, three, each one perfect, gliding as if the stage was made of ice and his feet merely skimming the surface. And then it happened. A sharp sound, barely audible over the music, but unmistakable to those closest to the stage. A ripping noise, followed by the briefest flicker of surprise across Michael's otherwise composed face. In the middle of the most famous dance move in pop history, the seam of his pants had split dramatically from knee to hip, revealing the dance tights he wore underneath. For any other performer, this might have been a moment of embarrassment, a technical difficulty to be overcome with an awkward laugh or a hasty retreat backstage. But Michael Jackson was not any other performer. Without missing a beat, without even a pause in the impossibly smooth backward glide, a smile spread across his face. Not the embarrassed smile of someone caught in a wardrobe malfunction, but the mischievous grin of a consummate showman presented with an unexpected opportunity. He completed the moonwalk, then spun, once, twice, 3 times, before landing in a perfect split, arms outstretched, the ripped pants now fully visible to the crowd. The audience gasped collectively, then erupted into cheers that dwarfed even the welcome they had given him at the start of the show. Michael rose in one fluid motion, reached down to the tear in his pants, and with theatrical flair, ripped them further, tearing away the lower section entirely to reveal the full-length dance tights underneath. The move was so smooth, so perfectly executed that many in the audience believed it was part of the show, a planned costume change of unparalleled dramatic effect. He tossed the torn fabric toward the crowd, where dozens of hands reached up to claim this unexpected souvenir, this tangible piece of pop music history. Without missing a single beat, Michael continued the performance, the music flowing seamlessly as if the incident had been choreographed from the beginning. But those closest to him, the band members who had worked with him for years, the dancers who knew every nuance of his performances, could see something different in him now. A looseness, a joy, an even greater connection with the audience that had witnessed this unplanned moment of humanity from a man so often described as otherworldly. His dancing became, if possible, even more fluid, more abandoned, more electric. The energy in the arena shifted palpably, transforming from the usual adoration of fans for an idol into something more intimate, more genuine. The shared complicity of 40,000 people who had witnessed a private moment, made public and handled with incomparable grace. As Billie Jean came to its conclusion, Michael stepped to the front of the stage, closer to the audience than he had been all night. The lights dimmed until only a single spotlight illuminated his face. "You know," he said, his voice soft yet somehow carrying to every corner of the vast space, "they always tell performers to imagine the audience in their underwear if they get nervous." He paused as laughter rippled through the crowd. "I guess tonight, you got to see me in mine instead." The laughter turned to cheers, to applause, to stamping feet and clapping hands that seemed to merge into one great sound of appreciation. It wasn't just for the joke. It was for his humanity, for the glimpse behind the perfectionism, for the way he had transformed potential embarrassment into another moment of connection with the people who adored him. If this story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more rare and touching moments from Michael's extraordinary life and career. True moonwalkers, show yourselves in the comments. Type "smooth criminal" if you would have been screaming in that audience, "thriller" if this story gave you chills, or "heal the world" if you believe Michael's ability to transform mishaps into magic is what made him truly special. What would you have done if you caught that piece of Michael's torn pants? Share your thoughts, and let's celebrate the king of pop's unmatched ability to turn an unexpected moment into an unforgettable memory. Your comments help this community of devoted fans grow stronger. preserving the legacy of a man who was so much more than his music, his dance, or his fame. A man whose humanity shone through even in unexpected moments like these. As the concert continued, there was a new energy, a new intimacy between performer and audience. Michael seemed to dance not just for them, but with them. The barrier between stage and seats somehow dissolved by that shared moment of imperfection and recovery. When he performed Man in the Mirror, the arena lights came up slightly, allowing him to see the faces of those who had witnessed his vulnerability and subsequent triumph. Tears streamed openly down his face during the final chorus, an unusual display of emotion from a performer known for his precise control. Later, his dancers would recall that it was the only time during the entire tour that they had seen him cry during this song. Though none could explain exactly why this night, this crowd had moved him so deeply. Perhaps it was the hometown audience, perhaps it was the unplanned intimacy created by the wardrobe malfunction, or perhaps it was simply the cumulative emotional weight of a life lived under constant scrutiny, where even the smallest human moment became headline news. Whatever the reason, 40,000 people held their breath as Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the perfectionist, the legend, stood before them with tears catching the stage lights as they fell, transforming ordinary salt water into diamonds of vulnerable humanity. After the final encore, after the last bow, after the lights had come up and the crowd began the slow process of returning to the ordinary world outside the arena, a small group of fans waited by the stage door, as dedicated fans always do. They had no real expectation of seeing him. Michael was famous for his swift departures from venues, whisked away to the next city, the next performance, the next moment in a life that seemed to move at superhuman speed. But on this night, something different happened. A security guard emerged, scanning the small crowd with practiced eyes before approaching a young boy, no more than 10 years old, who sat in a wheelchair clutching a homemade sign that had been visible from the stage throughout the concert. "Michael, you make this world my heaven." The security guard leaned down, whispered something in the boy's ear, then began to clear a path back to the door as excited murmurs spread through the waiting fans. The door opened, and Michael Jackson stepped out, changed from his stage clothes into a simple black jacket and pants, the crystals and military regalia replaced by understated elegance. He moved directly to the boy in the wheelchair, knelt down to eye level, and smiled that smile that had illuminated the childhoods of millions. From inside his jacket, Michael produced a single item, carefully wrapped in tissue paper. He placed it in the boy's hands, helping him unwrap it to reveal the torn piece of pants leg, now autographed with a personal message. The boy looked from the fabric to his idol and back again, his face a canvas of disbelief and joy. "You turned my accident into something beautiful tonight," Michael told him, just loud enough for those closest to hear. "Sometimes our best moments come from the things we don't plan." He embraced the boy gently before rising, acknowledging the other waiting fans with waves and that shy smile that seemed so at odds with his powerful stage presence, then disappeared back through the door. The story of Michael Jackson's torn pants would become part of music folklore, recounted in magazines and books, eventually finding new life decades later in social media posts and YouTube videos. But for the 40,000 people who were there that night in Los Angeles, the story was never just about a wardrobe malfunction or even a brilliant recovery by a consummate performer. It was about witnessing a moment of unplanned humanity in a show otherwise defined by meticulous perfection, and about the way that moment transformed an ordinary concert into something transcendent. In the days that followed, music critics would write about the technical brilliance of the performance, about the lighting and the choreography, about ticket sales and chart positions. But in living rooms and school hallways and workplace break rooms across Los Angeles, people who had been there spoke instead about the look on his face when the fabric tore, about the split-second decision to embrace imperfection rather than retreat from it, about the tears during Man in the Mirror, and about the way 40,000 strangers had somehow become a community, bound together by the shared experience of seeing not just Michael Jackson the icon, but Michael Jackson the human being, vulnerable and real, and all the more magnificent for it. Years later, When asked about their most memorable concert experience, those who were present would invariably mention this night, this moment, this glimpse behind the curtain of perfection that usually surrounded the king of pop. As for the boy with the wheelchair and the autograph piece of torn pants leg, he would grow up to become a choreographer himself, teaching dance to children with disabilities, showing them that limitations were often just opportunities in disguise. The framed fabric would hang on the wall of his studio, not as a piece of memorabilia from a famous person, but as a tangible reminder of a night he learned that perfection was not nearly as powerful or as beautiful as authenticity. And on the anniversary of that concert each year, he would play Billie Jean for his students, showing them videos of the moonwalk, teaching them the history of the move that changed dance forever. But he would also tell them about the night the pants ripped, about Michael's smile, about the tears during Man in the Mirror, and about the words whispered to a 10-year-old boy that had shaped a lifetime. Sometimes our best moments come from the things we don't plan. And as the song played and his students practiced their moves, adapted to their various abilities, he would sometimes glance up at that framed piece of fabric and whisper his thanks to a man who had given him not just music, not just dance, not just an autograph, but a philosophy that had sustained him through life's most challenging moments. The understanding that true magic lies not in perfection, but in how gracefully we handle its absence. Thank you for watching this tribute to one of Michael Jackson's most human and touching moments. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the real person behind the legendary performer, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that showcase the depth, compassion, and humanity of the king of pop. Share your own favorite Michael Jackson moments in the comments below, and help us continue to celebrate the legacy of a man who gave so much to the world, both on and off the stage.